it's spicy, and I'm always like eating vegetarian, so it's just mushrooms in it. What should it be instead? I think shrimps, something like that.
Yeah.
But you know, when you eat spicy food, especially Thai spicy,
Yeah.
and you're eating it with rice, so there's like, what can you do? There is nothing else that you can do to remove the this water makes it worse. So you're like, you try to drink water like right after, it doesn't help. And because the mushrooms are so delicious, to just continue eating it and it just wanes.
It's good. It flushes everything out. Medicinal.
Yeah, it's I don't know, but all of this green detox bullshit have a little bit of this to it.
Exactly. Spicy mushrooms down the hatch.
You should come say hi.
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 Hello.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm good.
Oh my God.
Just work too hard on my brand.
Well, that's how it goes, right? It's early days.
Yeah. Gotta crunch it.
Yeah.
Crush it.
I love your hair. It's so fun.
It's Cruella. You guys watched that movie?
Yeah, I haven't seen the movie. I mean, I saw the original 101 Dalmatians when I was a kid, but
yeah.
Yeah, the remake with the girl with hair like this, but I just not half, the do half.
Just a little.
Just for Halloween, and then perfect for Halloween.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I think.
Yeah.
He's dying.
He can't talk. Oh, not.
Yeah, they eat Thai food. It's very spicy. I saw he sweat more than exercise.
Good. Well,
Where are you guys now?
We're in New York.
Brooklyn.
New York City. Yeah.
How was everything there?
It's like pretty great here.
Yeah, it's really busy right now. There's lots of stuff happening. People, I don't know.
Lots of things going on normally, but there's a conference here right now for one of the crypto NFT things. So like everybody, that's been an artist as an NFT designer that could make it out. They're all out here, and there's like big parties, and it's really interesting.
Yeah,
we haven't gone to any big parties. We've gone to some like smaller meetups and got to see people, but it's cool because like big city, people come in to meet. So you get to see all kinds of new people, and it's fun.
Yeah.
I want to go.
Yeah.
Everything is okay with COVID stuff. So people still wear masks or?
Yeah.
People
are wearing masks, and then you can't, I think it's a New York City, I think it's a city thing. I don't know if it's outside the city, but you can't go into a restaurant to sit down unless you have your proof of vaccine and your ID. So they like are verifying that you're vaccinated, and then there's no masks inside, which is still a risk, but yeah.
Supposedly everybody's vaccinated. I don't know.
What's the proof of like? Is it a piece of paper or is it like an app?
I mean, some people have like fancy apps or whatever. New York gave out one.
And so did Los Angeles.
I just have a piece of paper that I took a picture of.
It
doesn't matter. Like,
it's valid when you are traveling, right?
When we're traveling, like, I mean, we haven't been through any airports or anything. We've just been driving. So
we haven't gone international either. Like we've flown domestic within the United States, each of us once, and they didn't ask anything about vaccination.
Yeah, we crossed the border into Mexico. No one cared.
They didn't care.
No.
Yeah, here we both didn't vaccinate yet, so we cannot go everywhere.
Oh,
we booked for the spa for him, and then spa are for this, so we're not yet, so we cannot book the spa here.
Oh yeah.
When are vaccines coming?
I mean, they are coming, and people are getting vaccinated. But
okay.
Now.
people in big companies, people that are doing like a lot of customer service type of work.
Yeah.
Waitress, waiters,
Yeah.
those type of jobs.
Yeah, that's how it was here too.
Yep.
And then old folks. Yeah, and then it was all at once.
Yep.
So
They like
it's
open
probably,
the floodgates.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting.
Yeah, you'll be free soon. Move anywhere.
That's it. All right, I go watch the movie because I work too hard, so time to relax.
Yeah, good. Relax.
Chill
Enjoy.
Bye.
Too hard.
Nice to see you.
Bye.
See you.
So
What you
there-
watching?
Corona something.
No, yeah, okay, good luck. Sounds so
Good luck.
Good luck.
good luck finding a better movie.
Mhm.
I feel like it's a challenge. With all of the options,
Yeah.
you keep chasing for that perfect one and you can't find one. Your food is finished and you're like, what am I doing?
Yeah. We watched a few like, I mean, we don't have any goddamn
Scandinavian
time.
revenge movies.
But yeah, Scandinavian revenge movies. They're pretty good.
He might like the one with the. Why can we never remember it?
Riders of the something.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
takes place in Denmark, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you should try that movie. That's fun. I'll send you the name of it. But yeah, there's like a
Production house.
production house called Magnet Films that's putting out these like sort of like tongue-in-cheek revenge movies. Like somebody gets killed and then somebody has to go on a mission and has, to pull people together to like solve the
Avenge
thing
the
and
murder.
then killing spree kind of thing. It's very relaxing. But
but they're funny too.
yeah, they're ridiculous.
Like the way the script is written, it's not intended to be super serious. Like
No.
it is serious, but the one that we'll send you the name of, there's a bunch of therapy stuff in it too.
Yeah, it's funny.
Because people have all kinds of like psychological issues that they're working through and everybody's like kind of helping each other. It's very interesting.
They're trying to heal together.
Mhm.
So it's a good undercurrent. Have you seen that Nobody movie?
No.
You should watch that one. I think you'll like that.
Yeah, that one's very good.
It's fun.
If you like revenge or action.
Yeah.
Nobody?
Yeah.
Nobody. Who are you? I'm nobody.
It's that nothing thing.
Yeah.
There it is again.
Yeah. Better Call Saul, or was it?
Yeah, him. He's great. I mean, he started out as a comedy actor. And so which means like this is also the sort of funny revenge thing that's like, it's like tongue in cheek, it's not the like serious action. Like John Wick is kind of like this too, a little
bit,
but less funny. There's just all the genre stuff gets combined. Evidently, we just like watching people get shot or get punched in funny, ridiculous ways. Who knows?
Yeah, it's not like super gory usually, but
Can be.
sometimes it's a little much where I'm just like, like I don't need to see that much violence. Like, I mean, yeah.
Cartoon violence is funny.
I like slapstick comedy, so it's like a version.
I mean,
of
it's
that.
basically that. Yeah. And then we watched it. I mean, we were watching that Foundation series on Apple
Based on Isaac Asimov
books. Yeah. It's really pretty, if nothing else. Like the production value on it is insane.
The first couple episodes we didn't enjoy, but once we got through those, there's this one actor in it that we just found so horrible.
Yeah.
Like he ruined it basically. It was kind of funny. It was all very theatrical and like blockbuster sort of, I don't know, hype kind of. Yeah. And then they fell off of that and they're just telling a story now, which it's very fun.
So there you go. There's some stuff.
There's some stuff. Yeah.
Here's some stuff.
Yeah. Fuck Netflix. All of the movies that are popping up are messing with your mind so much. I switched to Apple and Charlie Brown and stuff is currently good.
It's good.
Yeah, it's very
like
child friendly.
You'd probably like Succession too, which is HBO. I don't know if you've gotten into that. It's
No.
an American media conglomerate that is a family-owned business, and they're billionaires, and they're like the most fucked up people. Like the dad is the patriarch and like the chairman of the board kind of thing, and then all of his kids are vying for his like seat, like it's a succession story. They're like totally, I mean, it's as much of an insight or an inside look into what it looks like to see what that kind of like nepotistic, like, I don't know, family business stuff with like really rich people. It's pretty funny, but it's drama. Like it's intense relational drama within a family. It's very good.
Yeah, I can give that a try. Foundation, I've been seeing these massive ads everywhere now.
Yeah.
I want to see what that's like. But the NFT stuff, huh? Have you guys seen anybody getting very rich by selling a design?
Are you familiar with the Loot Project?
So yeah, I guess.
Are or you're not?
No.
So the Loot Project is effectively it's effectively like, what do they call it? Mega massively online. What's MMG stand for? That part.
I don't actually know.
It's like an online role-playing game, but without, it's not a video game.
Massive multiplayer.
Massive multiplayer online
game.
Role-playing game.
Yeah.
It's like a take on that, but it was seeded with NFTs. It's not a video game in like that sense, but it feels kind of like that. Like people are bringing that like energy to the structure. So somebody dropped 8,000 NFTs where you could mine them. So people had to dig them out of the ether somewhere. And I don't know what that process was like, but it was announced by the guy who was one of the co-creators of Vine, the video.
Do you know him, Dom?
Collaging company.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's collaging, but like collaborative video. Yeah. So he has a really good sense of a lot of these Web3 patterns. He's like very like, I don't know, like in the flow of this. So he drops 800 bags of loot. 8,000. And each bag has 8 items in it that you could presumably see like in a role-playing game. Things like a leather belt, a divine robe, like certain like studded boots, like all kind, like it's just, but literally the NFT that you mine is an SVG with just a list of words. That's it. Just words. And people went nuts. Like, so I met someone, we went to a loot meetup, and I met someone who had mined over 60 bags. Minted. And there, I mean, at some point, like all kinds of things happened out of this. One of the things that happened was it got tokenized, like ERC20 tokenized and backed by something called Adventurer's Gold. And each loot bag, I think, was worth like $40,000 at one point or something.
So they took those NFTs and then used them, like anybody who owned the NFT, like a sort of monetary policy group got together and like created a tokenized like currency for like the system and dropped 10,000 gold tokens to anybody who had a bag. To each bag. And then those tokens can be put onto any of the exchanges and liquidity is provided so they can be traded. So there is a market made for these things, and the market price for each of those tokens shot up. So anybody with a bag at one point, like each token was worth whatever the hell it was, I think 40 cents or something like this, or maybe even
I think it got up to at least $40,000 a bag.
Yeah, something like this for
USD.
Yeah. So $4 a token. So there's all this money sloshing around, and the way that the project is structured is you can just build anything you want off of it. So there are all of these like derivative projects that are popping up, and lore, like people are writing stories in the universe and then like presenting it. There's
people
like
are making art, like visual art. There's a newspaper, the Loot Herald.
Yeah.
That comes out like every so often with like updates on what's going on in the community. There's just a bunch of stuff.
It's basically a bottom up like content universe where people are contributing the story. And Dom, what he did was he created the minimum set of structure for people to have things to play with. And currently to buy one of these bags, it's like fucking 30 grand or something, or 8 grand, or it's ridiculous. And for the rare ones, it's like insane. And one of the guys we're working with, Sharuz, he participated in the first minting process or whatever.
I think he got just one bag.
I think he just got one bag. And then it was like, there's nothing in it really that's like special.
Nothing rare.
But he had a thing called the Divine Robe. And what he did with that was he went into the like Discord and he's like, how about anybody with divine robes? We form a community. And like the way that you form the community is you can gate it so that only if you have a divine robe in your wallet can you get in. So now he's created a community that's exclusive to people who have divine robes. And the divine robes became the most expensive item within the whole game because of this like social coordination layer. And so now they have this divine Tao and all this crazy shit. It's funny. So anyways,
we got to meet a bunch of people around that universe, and like
2 nights ago they had a meetup because a lot of people are in town. Yeah.
Just got to hear what different people are up to and like how they got into it, why they thought it was interesting. I met this guy the guy who had 60 bags that he minted. I was like, how did you get into this? And he's like, before you're like, yeah, what are you working on? I don't know what I asked him, but he's like, I'm just a degen. He's like, I used to work in an Amazon warehouse and I would spend all of my time studying this. And he just got into it and has been following things. He follows a bunch of DeFi companies. He helps with like testing and like staking, and he just makes money with hanging around and like getting in the mix with things,
flipping things, collecting things, moving stuff around, you know.
It's really interesting. Then I met a woman who she makes money just buying and selling NFTs. That's all she does. She has a background in art. She's interested in it for the art's sake. So she like researches it and she likes some of the sort of OG artists, and she's got stories about who they are and why for her they're important. So she's just like, but then she gets into some of the more mainstream stuff because she can make money that way. Just like this, it's like a whole other world.
Yeah, my friend Jade also, who was in Bangkok, and she'll probably end up back there at some point, which you guys should hang out. She's like a toy designer, like collectibles and stuff like this, and then moved over into NFTs and like has a whole scene there. So she's been selling pieces for like at least some of them go for like at least an Ethereum. So I mean, that's not nothing from where she was coming from. So yeah, I don't know. Then we have all these goofballs that we know that are like trading ridiculous nonsense. I mean, they're good with money. So
what do you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about. I mean, there are people.
Not specifically, but.
I mean, there are people who are flipping like currencies and NFTs and stuff. Like last night, we were talking about some of it. Like some of these things are like not cheap, like decent amount. They're, moving around like $20,000 items and stuff like this. And like doubling and tripling this.
Yeah, what was that project that they were talking about?
Which?
The one of like, one of them is worth 10 ETH, a couple were worth 5.
Loot.
It was Loot?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
There's a few others though. Anyways, all that stuff is sort of stupid. It's interesting to the degree that there's like some amount of value, but it's very similar to like all the shit coins, that's going on again. Like the stuff around the like Elon Musk troll universe, like dog coins and cat coins and all these kinds of things. I have some friends that have like some sensitivity to that world. It's like people who understand memes, they get a chance to like play with the meme money. Yep. And then people who understand the like collectibles, they've got their thing. People who understand finance can do all the like financial instrumentation. It's basically democratizing all of these markets so that more players can come into them. It's mostly crap though, but underneath all that crap, there's like some fundamental like infrastructure and like interesting technology that's being developed because there's so much money flowing through the system. I don't know. It provides weird stories because, yeah.
It's been very interesting.
Uh-huh.
NFT creators and then making story about the OGs. Oh my God. Where is that museum?
There's a bunch of galleries now.
Yeah.
Where you can go see NFTs like on screens, basically. There's this Bright Moments gallery that started in Venice Beach in Los Angeles, and now they've got one in New York, in Manhattan. I don't know what neighborhood it is, maybe Chelsea, lower Manhattan though. And apparently there's just been like a line around the block because they're showcasing the Bored Apes, the Bored Ape NFT collection, and their fans are just like, and collectors are really, I don't know, like effusive, excitable, like very supportive. So the day it opened, I guess it was the gallery or the what do you call it? Exhibit opened just all day, lying around the block. And then someone was saying the other day it was still going.
No.
It's new, I guess, the gallery itself. So all kinds of stuff. And then people are posting stuff on Twitter. So you're seeing all kinds of different groups. Like there's all kinds of meetups because there's the actual conference that we haven't met that many people that are attending the actual conference, but then there's a bunch of events outside the conference that people are doing. And then some people are just lurking on the sidelines. We're more lurking, but we did one of the off-conference meetups with Loot.
Bored Apes.
Yep.
What the?
It's a whole
There's a New Yorker article we can send you that might give you an insight into that whole culture. This guy, Kyle Chaka, I think is his name, wrote it.
I don't know if I know the article.
Yeah.
I think Bored Apes and CryptoPunks for me are like the big like name profile pick NFT project.
They're the blue chips.
Yeah, the blue chips. I think they're all 10,000 NFT projects too, right? Or they both are.
I don't know.
I mean, for anything not as weird as Bored Ape, I mean, very old real art collector or evaluator or whatever,
curator, yeah,
somebody can pick their brain and then here's NFT, let me just download it in your brain,
yeah,
and then sit back and listen what they say, then that might be a much cooler thing, because this is dumb. Do you guys own any before I just go and install the entire?
Even if we did own any and you said it was dumb, it would be funny because
they don't care that it's dumb.
So much money.
The dumber the better for a lot of these people.
Fuck that.
And then there's a club. There's a Bored Ape Yacht Club.
Yeah,
I'm there. They won't let you in though.
You got to own an ape so you can get in. I mean,
yeah, I mean, that's what it is. It's just a key to a bunch of different clubs and communities. I guess these underground clubs are surfacing. but put a fucking better use of the money.
Starts
They're making-
stupid every time everything starts stupid.
Yeah, it's
So just the patterns are what to
mapping
pay
out
attention
like
to.
what the networked nature of these kinds of
Yeah,
technology.
see?
It's just showing how it works, how it's networked, what the virality is, what you can do with it. I mean, is this saving the world? No, but it's helping bring people together. And it's showing how you can use NFTs to bring people together. Because imagine if you did like a government city version of this, where you got an NFT because I don't know how you would give them out. Yeah, we'll send you. Vitalik just posted something about Ethereum and crypto. I think, did he call it crypto cities? Yeah, because there's a whole other side of this that's not just this hype art scene.
All of these things start as toys. That's how technology works. Because it can't do much at first because it's simplified, but the general principles like get expressed, and then the infrastructure gets built, and then you can do more complex plays on it. So yeah, I don't know. It starts as apes.
To become a member, buy an ape on OpenSea.
Mhm.
What is the
Floor
floor
price.
price of an ape?
Probably tens of thousands of dollars at this point,
Really?
easily,
So at least a handful of ETH.
at least.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's going on. That's like that's the like most popular version of the thing.
That's like mainstream.
Yeah, we sort of hang out at the fringes, making
We-
our little technical projects.
We've got friends that are making NFT skateboard decks, NFT. Avatars of their body?
No,
That's
I
like
mean,
a friend of a friend.
yeah,
Um,
he's doing legitimately interesting media experiments.
mhm.
I don't know how to start to explain what the hell's going on there, but yeah,
I mean, they're NFT avatars of his body, basically.
sure.
Who else? Who else is doing stuff that's legible?
Oh,
Skateboard one is the most legible.
probably.
It's easy to understand.
Yeah, Pascal's doing some stuff with
Yeah, like Tamagotchi style.
like a little companion that has like characteristics, and like you can feed it like little
Stones.
gems, and
Yeah.
it gives it different abilities, and the gems are tradable, and then you can give it outfits and stuff like this, and you can move between worlds with the thing because they're NFTs, which means they exist in the metaverse, which means that you can take it into any other game. Like that platforming stuff is starting, like so structuring the actual assets so that they can exist within like any domain is a lot of what's happening technologically right now.
I'm just imagining the trope of the character who in fantasy books more
Mhm.
than sci-fi, but sometimes sci-fi, where you get the collectors who've got like their bags full of goodies or a cart full of goodies, and they're like on the road basically, or traveling.
Merchants,
Yeah, merchants. But some of them have like high-end stuff you don't really know until like you get under the hood a little bit, but people carrying around things like these stones and stuff that are valuable in very specific contexts, and like negotiating like trade, and
I mean, that's what's going on.
it's fun. I can imagine like the metaverse where like there's a Sherpa basically, or some guy who's,
Sherpa, huh?
well, he's carrying this stuff over long distances
Yeah.
and like to find different nooks of the world and doing trade with exotic goods basically.
Yep.
It's cool.
Uh-huh. So that's happening.
Yeah, like the woman I met who buys and sells NFTs, like it's like a version of that.
Yep.
That's your whole thing.
Except for now, you can just go onto OpenSea or a bunch of these other places and then look at what everybody owns.
Yep.
It's all open. It's like whatever you have in your wallet, people can see, which is why there's a status symbol to owning some of these more exclusive items, because your wallet is now like your portfolio of like, yeah.
Rich people.
Well,
step aside Rolex or whatever else that used to present status.
I mean,
there's.
I think we'll start seeing things like a Bored Ape Rolex watch face. Like they're going to start doing
stuff. I mean, they already have. They've got like, I think, a Netflix deal. I think there's a movie being made. Yeah. I mean, this stuff is like fully in development at this point. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a comic series with one of them. I don't know if it's the Bored Apes or something else, which I thought was kind of cool because it's being created like by the community. So someone's rising up to tell some story.
There's a lot of that stuff in there.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, that stuff is fine. Whatever. I mean, I tend to, you'll hear about it plenty because you can't get away from it. But in the pockets where people are actually like futzing with the technology, I think is more interesting.
Yep.
Like building out. So one of the things that I forget who said this, maybe
I can't stop yawning.
I don't know either. There's this guy, Kristen. I don't know if you've run into him. He's a VC, but he's also built a few things. I think he was originally in New York. He might still be back when I was out here. But he's at A16Z now, and he's been doing a fair amount of writing about like Web3. And he's interesting because he's been through at least 3 of the sort of technological runs. He was like pretty involved with the mobile stuff, like invested in a bunch of the bigger companies, has like a felt sense of how the technological like
landscape evolves.
Yeah, how it like, you have initial builders who are playing with things, and then, some of the infrastructure gets built, and then like you have people who come along and repackage that into a form that is more like broadly applicable, these kinds of things. And one of the things he was talking about is NFTs as the new website, like that concept, like websites as a form, like I glommed onto early days because I'm like, you can do a lot with this. You can communicate messages, you can push people through to pay you for services. And then now they've become like high res, they can become entire applications where you can manipulate information, you can type into them, you can now 3D, all of this other stuff. So we're in the like pre-CSS days of like websites with NFTs. They're like very simple, extreme structurally, like very like plain, but they have an enormous amount of surface area that will be developed.
Yeah, there's potential.
So there is a thing that you can do with these types of media entities. There's a bunch of stuff that you can do with websites. And so we're experimenting now with what they can do. So it's very fun. And particularly the guy Sharuz that we're working with is very, very good at like, just like, let's put this and this and this together, and then this thing happens. I'm less creative on that front because I don't program, and a lot of the stuff that's happening with the smart contracts, like we were talking about this, Web 2 is basically like all of the stuff that we built in this last run was front end stuff. This is why our design stuff was like pretty valuable, like creating new patterns and like making it usable at all. Then all the mobile stuff showed up. This time around, the smart contracts are rejiggering all of the backend architecture. It is a backend move right now. So,
but interestingly, so it's a backend move right now. But what we've been hearing, so CJ and Sharuz are our friends that we've been working with, and they are both pretty far back end. Like they like to know how things work from the ground up and they're good at that. But every other engineer developer that they're meeting are all front end because there's no databases. It's all built into the blockchain ecosystem or structure. So front end developers, or even like full stack developers, people who don't have strength in the back end, they can build on the blockchain pretty easily. So I think their skills are fairly transferable, but this is why CJ and Sharouz are in high demand, because they're like, yeah, well, there's some like pretty like low hanging fruit of stuff that you could do on the blockchain. But if you don't get creative with the smart contracts for like how they work and like manipulating the lower end technology, there's not that many patterns, I think.
Yeah. So
This is just interesting, like, because they kept saying it's only front end devs. Like we keep running into front end devs.
I mean, yeah. So what? Yeah, my take on, or my felt sense of this is,
I'm curious.
I think a lot of the backend dev stuff is being done in DeFi right now because there's an enormous amount of money over there.
Yep.
And it's interesting. They're able to play with like pretty fascinating patterns.
Well,
and with high stakes.
And they've been recruiting for those positions for a longer period of time. So
that for sure.
That makes sense.
So that's one part of it. The other part of it is what the infrastructural work around the back end is producing is like a surface area that's different than like APIs and stuff like this, where you have to maintain all of these things in a different way. The maintenance is spread out through the entire ecosystem rather than like a single entity having to maintain like a backend architecture.
Yeah.
And also the connection points into the backend are increasing, they're compounding because a lot of this stuff is open source. So like you build these patterns and then everybody can use them.
Yep.
And what it's doing is it's making it so that like if you are a front end developer, you have much less shit you need to worry about. Like you can build your smaller area and then you're like, well, logins, they're fucking taken care of because it's just now a wallet standard.
Yep.
You don't have to figure out like, do I need to tie in Google and Apple and this and that and build my own and fucking all of this stupid shit. There's like one source, and then the database sort of works in a, you have to figure out how you're going to go about doing these things, but it's opening up the landscape for a lot more front end developers to do more stuff.
Yes.
So
that makes sense.
And we have all of these existing patterns that we just built over the past 10 years in the Web 2 stuff. Like that stuff's not necessarily going away. We have a few new ones like the minting process.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about this. Like, so remember like I don't know. I was designing at the time, like the e-commerce flows, basically like buy buttons and all of that stuff. There was a time where nobody knew how to do this shit very well. And like, one of the things that we did with Carbon is made like a really fluid SaaS checkout process. Like it was as few steps as you can possibly get. And like, no one really noticed, but like it made it really easy for people to subscribe. So that whole flow though needed to be developed. And I remember at the time looking around and like nobody was doing it for shit. This is kind of a similar thing now. We've got the minting process. Like if you were going to be minting NFTs as a thing, like it's a production process versus a consumption process, which like when you click a buy button as a consumer, like you get a receipt and you get an item and you get some money comes out of your bank account. There's new flows like this that are being developed, but generally they're still on a screen. They're still buttons. They're still going through steps, like there's not like a wildly new interface that is being developed. It's just rejiggering what we already know. Whereas the backend architecture is like, significant. It's a fundamental difference. Like, so, and there's a bunch of new patterns that need to be developed. So innovation over there is like extremely exciting. So anyways.
So that's NFT week for us, or whatever it's called, NFT NYC. Someone at the table next to us last night, we were talking about crypto and NFTs and stuff throughout dinner. She leaned over and she's like, are you here with like for the conference? And so we started talking to them because they worked in crypto. It was very funny. And she said, well, everyone was wearing black, so I just assumed. And I was like, ha ha ha.
It's a thing, I guess.
Mhm.
I wonder though, you know, like you have all of these clubs being built. Keys are being sold online. There is no other. I mean, the only way to get in is just buying this.
Yeah.
So I'm keen to know what type of conversations they have once they actually meet up, because that must be radical.
Well, you
Everyone,
large spread of people.
There's like there's a wide variety of, so like Kristen was talking about the dude who's working in an Amazon warehouse, but like came up collecting things. And now he's able to make like legitimate money using that skill of collecting, right? I met another guy who he's a serial entrepreneur. Like I like him a lot, but basically he does like ridiculous companies, things that like mainstream, like big money won't touch, like a weird cannabis distribution thing, or like a, you know, like an online, like widgety damn it thing that like doesn't have the scale like that a VC would take on, but it's like a consistent moneymaker or whatever. And he came up collecting like comic books and like NBA cards and stuff like this. And so like, it's just muscle memory to him. Like he likes the communities of people who are goofing around. They collect and they like sort of talk about their collections and stuff. And they're curating certain, like they have like a felt sense of something that they're really into. And then they want one of every type, you know, something like this. And then, so there's like a hunting aspect to it.
Yeah.
Like
or they're like, the guy who started the Loot Herald is a construction worker. He like pours concrete, and he's a writer though.
Yeah,
so
he's a screenwriter, but he hasn't been able to have anything click.
In his off time, he's writing all the time. So when this came out, it gave him something to write about, and there's a community to write with. So there's all kinds of things. And like the woman who collects and sells NFTs, she comes from an art background. So like, it's just like a wild mix. Or like there was another woman there who her partner is a VC. I think I heard her say she had worked at GitHub before, but she grew up playing role-playing games that were text-based. So she loves loot. So you just get all kinds of weird, like.
Yeah, this is just the loot.
Yep.
Like area.
I don't know much about the other ones. Like, I don't know. So the friend making the NFT skateboards and skate park, he's finding people obviously that are interested in skateboarding. So there's like a whole like group of people that came into New York and were trying to meet up to go skateboard in the city. And someone was like, oh shit, you guys actually skateboard? Like, that's crazy. So there's all, and then I'm sure there's people in there who don't really care about skateboarding. Maybe they just like the culture around it. Like, or people who are fans of Tony Hawk, or like big name skateboarders who just think this is cool because of they used to play, I don't know, some game when they were growing up. But yeah, it is a lot of buying.
Yeah.
So we're less interested in that, which is why we're building patterns where you don't have to buy.
Yeah, so again, back to the carbon made stuff or whatever, there's a bunch of things here, like how do we make it free so that people can play, but then it's sustainable down the line, right? Like, so Sharuz has got a few patterns where like one of the major frictions is like the whole wallet process. Like, how do you get a wallet? How do you understand it all? Blah, 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 blah. You've run into it. And I'm not super, like, I know that we'll find a solution to this. I'm not in a hurry to do it, but Sharuz already has at least one pattern where it's effectively like doing a custody it's a centralization thing, which is fine in my mind. Like there are people who are purists where like everything must be decentralized. You must never hold anything, no centralization. And I'm like, it's just ridiculous. Any more than being fully centralized, it's ridiculous. But basically the idea is they sign up to play, and there's a few games that are doing this now. And they get a wallet as they're part of their sign up. Like you just start playing, and as things accrue into the wallet, like the keys for the wallet are held by the company or by the organization at first. And then there is a process in which there are things in the wallet that are valuable by playing, right? Like, so say you win a challenge or like you create a photo or something like this, that stuff is stored in relationship to the address associated with the wallet. Then you can say like, okay, to retain access to this thing, we need to give you a private phrase, like a private key phrase. And like, you can't lose this thing because this is effectively how you access your wallet. And they accept the thing, and then it's handed over. And now they have a wallet and they have stuff in the wallet, and they can use that throughout the ecosystem. So there are these patterns where rather than getting them to go to MetaMask and doing this thing and getting a wallet and blah, 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 so that they can start to play, we can create a thing where they're playing already, and then we hand it to them later. That's just one pattern. There's probably going to be a lot of these kinds of things. So that stuff is getting smoothed out. I think those will standardize out for consumer behaviors, for games, for all of this stuff.
Yep. Makes
For
sense.
some so intelligent, the process of, I mean, the protection of it is such a weird part. Is like, here's a password. If you lose it, oopsie.
Yeah, there's a shift there.
Yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
oopsie. Because if you've got things of value in there, I mean, you can't like are there any retrieval processes yet?
There's like newer patterns on this where like you can split, like, yeah. I haven't been keeping track of them as much, but there are fallback kinds of things. Like it always starts out with like the heaviest duty version of this. And then you figure out how to build abstractions in there to create like fallback positions. So you're not completely fucked.
Yep.
But early days, like, don't lose it. Like that's where we're at. So
We were discussing, it was for the digital pass. We go, all right, what happens if they lose it? You would be able to connect people to your account, family members or whatever. And then through that, you would be able to verify and gain back access.
Yep.
But yeah, whatever.
Trust networks is basically how it comes down. Like the idea of, so the libertarian idea where you like have one passphrase, you manage everything yourself.
Yep.
Like you are solo, you're out in the world and you're like completely independent, is so stressful.
Yeah,
to
it's
most
just a
people.
lot of pressure.
So, you know, that the technology allows for that effectively to happen outside of the idea that like you are also agreeing to the whole system of passphrases and all of that, which is an agreed upon like thing. You are in a network. But yeah, like there are different layers to the network. Like how do you hold in I mean, we're doing things with like multi-sig wallets as like our like to form our squad or whatever. Like, you know, we'll bring in money into a centralized treasury, and then we all have keys to that treasury. And we can make decisions based on like a sort of simple voting mechanic on how to actuate things. So anybody within the treasury can do things if a minimum set of requirements are reached. So that's spreading the like decision making and ownership.
That one's funny too, because like right now we have it set up so that everybody who's in the multi-sig wallets, there's 5 of us, have to agree on chain with whatever transaction is being proposed. But if one person lost their wallet, like keys, for example, like I wonder how, because you get ripple effects then from that.
Yeah. So all these patterns we have to work out. You figure them out the hard way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is why the people who are playing with the early technologies, it's a lot more risky, which is why the reward tends to be outsized, because you're taking on a fair amount more risk. And by the time it becomes legibilized or safe or whatever you want to call it, most of the risk has been gobbled up. So yeah.
What a world.
Mm-hmm.
And how far away I am from it by just being here. I mean, there is no, I bet this is probably the conversation people have in Europe when they sit and chat. Here, conversations are so different, very, very social, very
like real world.
Yeah.
We were talking about that because the people that we're renting from right now, they don't live online at all. And like when we first got to town, they are like socializing, like they hang out on the block in Brooklyn and like everybody knows each other and they're just chatting with us and like including us in the community and introducing us to people. And like they don't have anywhere to be. There's no like online world that's calling them, and their style of conversation, you can tell they spend time talking to people in the real world all the time. It's way more social. It's like a different kind of social,
different pace of social, different cadence. Like the media that they're spending time in is like a city block rather than like multiple discords and like whatever the fuck we're doing, Twitter and Zoom across multiple time zones, and like it's a very different style of like interrelating
communication.
It's funny, like, because we had CJ and Sharuz come into town and we're like sort of hopping around and going to places and working out of a hotel lobby, and and there we were able to like spend some like quality time in person with each other, which was really nice. And John was here too, but he was in and out. And so you get like there is a depth of relation that is available when you are just slowly spending time with each other. You can build something that is much harder to do online. There's all of this subtle information that is being expressed in those types of hanging out.
I think this is why like people who do remote work insist on having some kind of in-person stuff. Like I met someone who likened it to a battery, and you need to recharge the team battery effectively. You have to see each other. There's some weird human thing where you're like, oh yeah, you're real, and like it deepens the bond, like it rejuvenates you until you get tired again and you need to go do it again. What have you been socializing about? Like, what are people talking about?
I mean, the circles that I'm in are not to, I don't know, categorize people, but it hasn't been really the most interesting conversations at all. So it's different. It's like, it's a culture. It's the tech is not really advanced here. So there is none of that. There is no like a smart tech people.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mean, but in Stockholm, we just run into them all the time. Here is just, you really need to try just a couple probably, which I haven't.
Got them.
I'm so fast with just. I kill it in a way that there's no blood on this white table. I'm like that pro. Anyway.
Is it a mosquito?
Yeah.
Do you have a lot of mosquitoes there?
Talk about this.
At night, but then all of the doors and windows are usually open, which is probably not the smartest decision. But I like the sound of trees moving, the wind, and very, very boring conversations, which is, difficult. Other than that, no.
Do people talk about though? Like TV shows, fashion, like food? I'm curious.
Oh God.
Politics?
No. Yeah, a little bit, but luckily, no. I think that's a very Middle East kind of a thing to do. Like people sit and politics is just let's talk about how beautiful the past was and how shitty current is. And I think Southeast Asia is just the whole Southeast Asia, just very bullshit kind of a chit chat. There's no point in it. It's like before high school, that type of conversations.
Weird.
Yeah, it's then in Stockholm is always everything is future oriented, like where you at, where you heading, like what's going on, all of those kind of things. With US people, they're just probably 10 steps ahead of it, because they're just developing in a much faster rate. In Europe, they need to overthink everything before they start doing something. US people are usually just doing it and figuring it out.
Yeah.
Doing it. Yeah, but great. I mean, at least you're progressing faster.
Yeah.
And yeah. It's a place of all short conversations.
You're like a little bit of a lot of places, I feel like. So I'm curious, like where do you have a sense of where in the world is most aligned with like the people you'd want to be around?
Actually US, but for some reason I get along very well with Spanish people. Every single Spanish person I've worked with, I just had a great time.
Interesting.
And it's only because of I'm not sure how to explain it though, because like must be part of a culture. I've been there a couple of times, but I still don't know where it comes from. But there are very, very positive people and very centered around the present.
I can see that.
Sweden, Scandinavia, that entire place is not. They are not living in the present. It's insanely future oriented or past. There is just
I'm curious if you'd like it in Mexico City. Like
probably.
And like the visa situation might work there potentially. Like we have a friend actually who's her whole thing is just bringing in people to this university from like, what is it, Iran and all these Syria and all these other places, like
the whole world,
academics, but
yeah,
there in particular though, like
it's the most challenging.
Yeah. So, but anyways, that aside, like the culture, it's a city culture. There's also a lot of people from New York and Berlin and other places moving down there because it's very cosmopolitan. It's a big city.
I think the cost of living
cheap.
is still low. Yeah.
But it's beautiful there and like very, artistic and stuff like this. Anyways, it keeps popping up. And the Spanish thing obviously is connected. Perhaps like a mentality or whatever. It might be something to look into, travel wise at least.
We should meet in Mexico City.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a great spot for a meetup.
Should.
Yeah. What else?
Are you still running 10K every day?
Yeah, it's crazy.
How-
I should probably stop at this point. My legs are turning into, I don't know, they're autopilot in the morning. But yeah, it's very, I'm also doing twice a week therapy.
Twice a day? Week?
Twice, yeah, I wish.
Twice a day, can you imagine that? I don't know
one
what would happen.
morning, Elon Musk probably doing it with the amount of things that are happening from like 2 p.m. until 3 p.m. And I know, yeah, I need 10 massages and 5 therapy sessions.
How's that going?
Do you like your therapist?
I'm not sure how to judge their experience or like what you're aiming to get out of it, given that I've always been in and out of them in the beginning by like I was forced to, but then later I chose. You can't, it's just very difficult. The outcome of it probably comes much later. I'm just treating it as a thing that treating it as a time where I know what the problems are. So I'm just talking about it to understand what jumps out of me. And whenever sometimes a certain word to describe something comes out, I'm a wolf. That's insightful. Why am I choosing that word to describe that thing?
Yep.
And they know they are very good hosts in the beginning. I'm just waiting to get my here's what's wrong with you. But given the age, given the I know some of my issues, so I'm just very focusing on that and talking about it. It's really good. I wish I could do it more often, like a daily thing actually, to just progress a bit faster, because at this point you're just talking to yourself and there are some questions coming at you to keep it focused and to kind of slowly guiding you towards certain areas. I'm an open book. Let's just talk about everything, whatever. I want to understand which patterns that I have that I'm completely blindsided to, that kind of mess me up all the time. Find them.
Part of that is like helping build a rapport enough with the other person. Again, we talked about the personal language thing. They have to learn like your patterns of thinking, and then like to be able to point out where you're not going. They need to see the landscape of where you've gone, and maybe like there are bubbles of areas that like you're dancing around. You can't get to that stuff. It takes a while, and you can only go so fast, because learning a new language, it takes time, right? So even if you were to go every day, it doesn't. I've fooled with this some or whatever, and there's a natural like sort of a friction where you need some time to like digest the thing or whatever. So I don't know. It's good.
Yeah, therapy is one side. The other side are these runnings.
It's like another kind of therapy.
Yeah.
It's intense. It's not the pain of running or anything like that. It's just you are there, and because you are running on a treadmill, you're not seeing new things as you're running. You're basically in here running in here. And it becomes very overwhelming after the first 20 or 30 minutes. Then there is no way you can turn that off. Like I try very hard to not listen to music. And podcasts in the morning, it just like I haven't even been able to package all of this stuff that is going on, and I'm getting a bunch of these deliveries. I can't handle this in the morning, so I'm trying to not listen to podcasts. But it's I guess if you want to know what your mental state is, go for a run without anything, and then hear what's happening in your mind. It's very loud.
I think it's good. Like, so I started doing this with cycling. We've talked about this before. I'd go on bike rides or on the trainer or whatever, no music, no nothing, just like whatever arises. And then not using the exercise to get away from what arises, but using it as a time to be able to like work with the energy for what's coming up. And doing it repetitively to like it's exposure. You're like exposing yourself to the intensity and then being able to walk it back being able to work with it gives you like skills around that. Yeah, I think the thing with your, I mean, you were talking about like cutting back the media and stuff. You're just giving yourself room to like look at your own thinking.
Yep.
But it takes time to do this. You can't just go cold turkey because you'll flip out. It's like too intense. This has come up with a few people who are like doing similar work. They're trying to figure out a way to give themselves mental space so that they can like look at the stuff. But and like some people are like, you know, they're on TikTok all the time or something like this. And it's constant stimulation. And if you cut that out right away, you'll go into withdrawal. So like it's tapering off that and then like replacing it with better patterning and like giving yourself, I don't know. Like, I think that is the only way to, because there's so much informational stuff coming in. If you don't have space to work with your own thinking, you'll just fill it up. So it's good.
It's interesting. I found that the more that you listen to your own thinking, it ends up getting quieter over time.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. Like if you listen to yourself, it feels heard and then it doesn't have to scream as much.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I was listening to this podcast, this Why We Sleep, and how the importance of the REM sleep. And if you miss it, because during that time you are dreaming, if you miss it consistently over a long period of time, your brain will force it upon you during your waking time.
Yep.
And that's basically what, you will start hallucinating. And I guess that's what happens if you don't have enough mind space to hear yourself for a very long period of time.
Yeah.
They take over.
Yeah. It's like it starts coming out in different ways because your own mind is trying to get your attention. So it's causing you to do things and say things where you're just like, what the fuck is that? And it's like kind of stressful.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
All of these are waste management. Seriously, we keep coming back to this thing. But we are building this waste during the day. And if you don't have enough time to deal with them and push them and categorize them, over time, they will overwhelm you. And then it usually comes out as bursts of, I don't know, I think initially it comes as an anger, then there is some depression that probably maybe comes later, where, every time you are around happy people, you're like, I'm not really in sync here.
Yeah.
Then they will hate you as a collapse.
Interesting. I like the waste management as a model. Like the one that stuck with me is like because of the qigong stuff. It's very fluid based, like movement of water, or movement of liquid. So like there's a lot of like when you have a clear running stream of your energy, it's crisp, it can move, it's like bright. And if it goes into a pool and it doesn't move, it stagnates and becomes like poisoned effectively. And like that feeling of like not having moved through like memories or thinking or conditioning or whatever has a distinct flavor now. And it comes with that depression and anger and frustration and like irritation. So like when I start to feel that stuff, mostly the movement practice, which you're doing with running right now, like it's a moving meditation, like, or contemplative practice, is to like bring that stuff up in an environment where you can work with it. It's a workbench. And then like, take a look at it. What is it trying to say? And sometimes it's obvious, sometimes it's not for me, but like, I basically take it and I'm like, okay, I feel it. And I'm like, okay, this sucks, but okay, what is the positive aspect of this? Like what is it showing me? Like, what am I responding to? Like, that's the sort of discussion. It's very abstract. And then let it go. It's fine. Like this one, that's how it goes. You let it go. And then like practicing, like not holding on to these things as much. And then there's like usually there's an opening and like a felt sense of like freedom, just even a little bit from the like attachment to that material. And so the stagnation it starts to flow. And like, this is the flow state, right? So I don't know. It's been helpful. Yours can be garbage trucks, waste management.
I don't know where actually the whole thing came from.
Yeah, I think it was something about sleep where during the day, where Alzheimer comes from, or where I think where it comes from. Lack of sleep creates this basically waste in your brain, and sleep is the only place or the only time that they get cleaned.
Makes sense to some degree.
Oversimplification of it.
I probably won't get Alzheimer's then because I sleep all the time. There's probably a thing too, though, if you sleep too much. I don't sleep too much.
You're a very sharp thinker. I don't think you can sleep too much. That was an interesting thing, actually.
I like that.
There are a lot of good things. I didn't read the book, but the Joe Rogan's podcast with Matthew Walker, the writer of the Why We Sleep, is very, very nice. Joe Rogan is a crazy interviewer. He can actually sit down and talk with whomever and ask the most interesting questions just to get the core of it. I wouldn't say in a short time. That thing, what is it, like 2 hours, 3 hours?
Yeah.
It's intense.
What's his background?
He's a comedian.
MMA fighter.
And that too, yeah.
Interesting.
My brother likes him a lot.
That's a really interesting combo.
Martial arts enthusiastic, kind of a I guess a big advocate for the alternative way of doing basically everything.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of exploration of I mean, it's funny, he gets a lot of shit from especially like highly educated people, because he's like
do it a different way, it doesn't matter.
Well, he's a thick-necked idiot, right? Like he's like a working class schmo, and he's playing around with sort of I don't know, the pursuits of intellect, but he's doing it in a way that is like kind of
tasteful to them,
trolly and like ridiculous, and he's stoned half the time, and he's you know, a dirtbag to some degree. So I don't know. He's interesting. Like the longer form conversational, like let's dig into some stuff. You know, I think he chooses people who tend to have like a pretty polished, like they have a book, they've like worked out their thing to a certain degree. But it's introducing a lot of like mental patterns and like into people's thinking that I think they wouldn't have gotten otherwise. It's cool in that way. Like you don't have to think about this like sleep, for instance, pay attention to it at all. Like it's a thing. There's like a bunch of stuff to know about it.
Yeah.
Like it's not just something you take for granted. And if you do take it for granted, like there might be some answer to why you're feeling like garbage. So yeah. Lots of awareness.
It was interesting. Like some of them were very inception, like where if you learn something during the day and you go to bed, your brain runs that episode at a much faster rate. I don't know, 10x, 30x, something like that, over and over again, just to understand it better. So a good sleep, which is usually around, what was it, like 7 to 9 hours, equal to the next day you wake up, you would be 30% better at doing that thing that you just learned compared to the night before or the last time you did it.
Interesting.
And for exercising, it was nice too, where you go, if you have a bad sleep, then your cardio won't be as good as it should be.
Your recovery isn't as good. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like the pattern there is like finding a balance between rest and activity.
Yep.
And like figuring out like how to rest well.
Yep.
Because if the quality of your rest is higher, then the rest of your life will be better. And like this is particularly like, you know, in environments where there's like overachieving and people like fucking pushing themselves to the absolute limit all the time.
Yeah, well, like the United States tends to not be great at this.
No. And so there's an art to performance. There's an art to like to doing things with like some exceptional ability. And part of that for people who are like gung-ho about that, who like to operate at an intensity, is figuring out like how to slow it down and to do that well. I mean, I'm still practicing. There's a lot I'm not great at on that front, but because like those like we're experiencing a lot of it here. Like we came out of the country into the city, and New York's energy is like batshit insane. There's a lot happening here. There's a lot of people like doing things and making things and and I like that energy a lot, but it's not necessarily the healthiest thing for me, because I'll just keep it going. Like, because there's always something.
This is, like the other night, I was tired and I was like, I need to go soon. And he just wouldn't stop talking. And I think the third time I was like, I have to go. Like, if you need to stay, that's fine. He's like, no, we can go. But he just like.
Well, yeah, because you can find somebody who will keep it going.
Yep.
Like there's always somebody who will take it to the next one and the next one. And then we go over here to the next bar, and then we're back at somebody's place, and like new people come in and there's new conversation, and you're like, and then you have to get up the next day and work. So, and then, but it gives you a lot of energy to put into the kinds of things that you're making to push yourself or whatever.
Yep.
But the city can eat you if you don't find a way to offload that energy and to slow it down and to like get back into nature or like, do something that is like calming to the nervous system and these kinds of things. So
yeah, it's interesting. It sort of relates to the conversation you were having with someone last night.
Yeah.
He kept saying he needs to get out into the country more, like nature. And he is born and raised in New York. Left for like a short stint, but like you need to get out more.
Yeah. So yeah, one of the interesting things coming back into the city, I haven't really spent a long period of time here since I lived here. Like I've come out for like a week or 4 days or something like that, but it doesn't really count. Like you don't really like start living in a place. I think we've got it down to like a week, maybe a little bit less, where I can start feeling like I'm here. And especially if we're in an apartment, not like a hotel or anything.
Yeah, that makes
or sleeping on somebody's couch.
Yep.
But that first week here was like really fucking uncomfortable. Like, and I kind of knew that it was coming because we've done a lot of this moving around thing. And when you land in a place, there's like all of the like, I don't know anybody, and it like I don't know where anything is, and there's just fucking strangers everywhere. And like, it's the animal feeling of like being out of a herd, this kind of thing. And also I have certain places, when you go to a new place, there's no memory of the place because it's new. So you don't have any like patterns of behavior that you're like reliving or anything like that, because places store information, right? Like, and you have a relationship to that. And so coming back here, the last time I lived here, I was having fucking panic attacks every minute of every day. And like, and the city is like, that energy made it way worse. So I had to leave because I was going to like kill myself probably, like if I kept living at that level of anxious intensity. And so the first week we were back here, all of it came back, all of it, just fucking. And we even went to the neighborhood that Carbon Mate had the office in. We've spent most of our time over there just because a lot of the stuff is happening there. And like all the streets and the fucking corners and like all of that stuff is just coming back. And I'm like, holy fuck. Like, I don't know that, but the like tooling and therapy and like ways of thinking and ways of processing that stuff, like I get to use it now. And like, it's overwhelming and I start flipping out, but then I can calm it down And so like the city now feels much different than back then. It has a familiarity, but it's for somebody else.
Yeah,
And
this
so
kind of somebody else. That's interesting.
it's very weird. Like, and so I'm able to like enjoy it in a different way now through a different lens, but only because I'm letting that stuff come up or I'm not letting it, I'm not running from it. But fuck, a few of those days in there, it's just like, why do you do this? This is terrible. But yeah, it's better now. Comes and goes.
Yeah, it comes and goes.
Yeah.
What's your routine, by the way?
In general, like daily?
When it hits you.
See, it's variable. So each place is different. There's like a general sense, like my routine in general, I keep consistent. So I'm writing every morning and I'm doing Qigong every morning. The past 3 days have not been as much, and I can feel like I feel a little off, but we've been around a lot of people and I was able to have like decent conversation, like rich conversation, so that helps move things through. I'm not at the place where I'm having like panic attacks that like freeze me up or anything. That energy I can work with now. Like I don't have like massive fear anymore like I used to. But like in the first week, let's see, like there was a couple times where like it comes out in like work. I'm not doing enough. I'm not participating well enough. All the stuff I'm making is not good, this kind of thing.
Yeah, same for me. I don't know why work is that.
It's where it comes out. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like an anxiety trap. And so I'll start talking to Kristen primarily, like either directly if I can grab it and like be like, I'm flipping out about this particular thing, and then she'll help reflect back, or it'll come out in like I was meeting with some guy. I met with a guy named Chris Bangle, who was he's the like lead designer at BMW through the like 90s and 2000s. So all those cars were like his like creative direction. Met him through a guy named Corey.
Right.
And so, right, like I think at some point I'll introduce you. Like I'm going to keep talking to him, see if I'm helping like put some language around the Web3 stuff. He's interested.
Oh yeah, we have to look at something he sent.
We need to go through that thing. He's got like a large scale design philosophy that he's trying to present to the world. He's older. So there's an interesting, like, it's fun talking to a designer who's been doing things at scale this long. And I haven't really had a chance to do that. But leading up to that, I was that first week in New York, and like also we presented for the first time at like about the stuff we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So all of those places where it's like nervous excitement, like I'm talking to this guy, I don't know how it's going to go. He's like high profile. I don't really care, but like, the insecurities can come out in that stuff. And so I'll start planning or prepping or like doing something. And Kristen's like, I think you're nervous about blah, blah, blah. And then if we can point to it, then I can grab it and then I can write about it.
Yeah, you're giving it voice. I was going to say, maybe.
I sit and I write to it or about it, let it talk. And then usually it calms down immediately because it's not that big a deal. Like it feels like a big deal, but when you write it out and you have to look at it, it's just like, I'm a little nervous about talking to this guy because maybe, who knows what'll happen, but most likely it'll just be, we'll have a fine conversation. But in my head, it's like, he's not going to like me and I'm an idiot or whatever the fuck is coming up. Right. And in the presentation case, like it was an informal thing where we talk about a game that we've been building, and I know how to do this. It's not hard.
And our whole team was there except for John. So it was really easy. But it ended up being really easy.
Like, I'm going to get in front of all of these people. I don't know who they are. And then they're going to like fucking reject me and throw me out a window and or whatever the fuck they're going to do. And so that builds up. And then, so I write it out, or I literally just go do like a Qigong thing and like feel into it if it's one of those. And, you know, it's usually not that big. And like, I can usually get to a place through the process of one of these things, like talking, work, like writing, or like moving, where it's the curiosity thing we talked about before, like get curious about it and then flip it into something that I get to do. Like I get to do this. I don't have to do it. It's not forced upon me. I am moving into the world and I get to play with these things. And that's crazy and exciting and, you know, stressful and all of these things. But on the other side of that, there's something that I get to learn. And like, I will know more about the world and I will be able to actuate in a way that is fuller because I've gone through the experience of this thing that is intense. So it's like a full sort of design loop, right? But yeah, it takes practice. I'm still figuring it out.
Mine is a bit more SOS. I just suddenly start focusing on either sound or just usually sound, and that would bring me back to like present.
Yep.
I don't dissociate as much as you guys do, I guess.
I used to. I mean,
I have in the past. I don't like lately. My thing just comes out of like self-loathing of some sort. Like,
yeah.
But it doesn't seem to come out like during socialization. Like I can like, when I'm there, I'm there.
Yeah. Yeah, and the more room I have from this thing, the more I can listen to people and the more I'm calm around in more situations.
Yeah.
So it's just practicing being calm in places. So at first it's, grounding in whatever brings you back to the present.
Yep.
Like remembering what the present feels like.
Yep.
Practicing that, right? So
yep. It's interesting.
Yeah, I think the therapy, like it took me a while with the therapy to like just get it all out. Like blah, 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 blah. Here's this, here's that. Here's what I think about this. This thing's broken. I think this and that. And like, a lot of that stuff is like certainties that I've developed because they are safe. And like the therapy was hearing it out loud and then giving myself the permission or having the therapist help me give myself permission to break it down, like take the armor off of that particular area so that I could be vulnerable in that space without dying or feeling like I'm dying, right? So it's sort of systematically understanding your languaging and the patterns of behavior that you've built up. And then, I mean, this is the concept of the Jungian complex, right? You've made a complex, you've made a knot, and that knot is repeated over and over and over. So it tightens it. And the process of like therapy or looking at this stuff and awareness is disentangling that knot until it's straight again. And then, like trying to maintain that like system so that things are moving and flowing through it without you flipping out, because the knot makes it harder to adapt to reality. Like, so that you're trying to
there's too much energy going in. It's like you're trying to hold something in place or hold up like the image of something that doesn't need to be held up. So you're just focused on that thing, not what's actually happening.
Exactly. You're putting it through like all this. Another metaphor is like you're looking at the world through like a system of mirrors and shit, where the reality of the world is right in front of you, but the light has to go all of these different ways. And that's making you slower or foggier or like afraid or, because it's hard to tell what's actually happening. And so removing all of that stuff is the process of like bringing it to the surface, taking a look at it, like feeling all of the stuff that comes with having to have done that in the first place, like a process of letting it go or keeping it or, saying thank you to the thing, because it helps you get to the place you're at, but now like that's not what's working anymore. Like there's all of these like little relational things, and each person has a different mentality around it. But like, and doing this in a way that you are like, the more relaxed and compassionate you are about it, the easier it goes. But for people who are intense and used to like fucking fighting everything, like you're just like, fuck you. And you punch the thing and it like flips out. And then, you know, so yeah, like figuring out the softness so that you can learn with yourself is part of the thing for people who have been practicing being hard a lot. So, you know, it's always and for people who have been too soft, it's figuring out how to stand up for themselves. You know, it's all these things, right? So, yeah. Anyhow.
He's off to the races.
This has been coming up a lot. I think it's
been coming up a lot with the people you've been talking to.
Yeah. Or I'm seeing
unlearning your patterns of, your learned patterns of coping, basically. Coping with being alive, which we all have them in some way.
Yeah.
You know what's the craziest thing? Where you source your energy from? Yeah. Such a short thing. Just that.
Where do we source our energy from?
Mine is not coming from a positive place. Mine is just anger for whatever injustice or whatever that I'm not sure how to define it yet, but because the energy, well, you get access to a lot of energy very, very quickly by just thinking about something.
Sure.
Great, let me just put this into a good use.
Yeah.
But then you can't, that's not a healthy place to pull the energy from.
Yeah.
But it's a necessary place at times where you go, I can instantly just go by just thinking about something. I'm like, all right, let me just take what it's mine. But I always admired people that don't have it. And then they have this very good energy, healthy energy, which just align with the thing that they are doing.
Yeah.
And just good, smooth flow. Things usually progress a lot slower though, but it's fine. It takes time. You know, all of that. I don't have none of that. Mine just like now, right now, let's just do this. Put as much as time into it and as much as energy into it. I'm an extremer on both sides. Work, fun, exercise, healthy, everything, just extreme. Which is interesting just because it all comes from the source of the energy that I'm pulling it from. If it was a bit more aligned or in line with.
Yeah, I think I mean, everybody is sensitive to the energies that they're sensitive to, right? And like some people, for whatever reason, they're tapped into something that's more intense. Learned. That's for sure.
It's exposure. And also like if you tapped into an intense energy and got some kind of response from people around you, like depending on what the response is, you're either going to like lean into it more, or if it afforded you some sort of success in the environment, you're going to keep doing it.
How messed up that part is that you are not in control of which direction you should be taking with your behaviors. It's just all coming from outside. You show something, you get some reward, you get some feedback. You're like, yep, I'm going to repeat this. Even though it doesn't do you any good, but it does you good in terms of the reward.
This is development.
Yeah.
I mean, this is where you can have healthier environments for development. Like, because we know that this is the case.
Yeah, you can also change it too, which is what we're talking about. How you can look at what's happening and sort of adjust based on what, like you have to pick up new routines, new habits to replace the old ones, which is really hard, but it is possible. That's what, like one of the main things with Kundalini is to understand the patterning of your own energy and how to tap into it, because by doing that, it shields you from other people's energy.
Yeah.
But so when you're around people
Yeah.
and you can feel like you get pulled into things, I mean, I'm still relatively new to Kundalini and yoga as like a spiritual practice, but if you're familiar with your own self and your own patterning and your understanding of like what energizes you, it's so much more obvious when you get into settings. You have to talk about it to like understand, but you're like, that's not mine. Or
Yeah.
I'm feeling things from outside right now. And sometimes they'll just bounce off because you're just like, oh, I don't care about that. Like I've got my own thing going on. I find that aspect of the practice really interesting. Like strengthening, it's not so that you can't interact with other people, but it's so you can preserve your own, like it's like a little energy machine, I guess, or engine. Because if you could be your own best self, that helps other people be their own best self. And then it creates reciprocal, like, I don't know, you can interact with people on like a different plane. Like you're talking about, Dave, where you're able to deal with whatever comes at you in these social situations, including people that are a little bit crazy. Like,
Yeah.
like there's a bunch of people that are basically trying to sell you scams that we are running into around the NFT stuff. And they're like crazy characters.
They're very intense. They're
bringing a lot of energy, and he can just sit there and like talk to them right now. And in the past, he's like, I wouldn't have been able to.
Yeah.
Or it would have been challenging, and
or I'd cut them off at the pass, or like I knock them back, or because I'm not usually overwhelmed by these people, but I see them as an affront. And so now with the practice stuff, I'm able to like hold their energy longer. It's not that big a deal. Like they're
and then put it down, right? Like,
yeah,
it's not your energy,
not mine. I'm just I can hold it so that I can be in conversation with them.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't distract me. Just like, this is an interesting energy that you're throwing out. Like, why? What? I mean, this is usually where I'm like, okay, so you're pushing in here, like, and you're trying to get your, there's some advantage that is being tried to get, like, trying to convince me that you know something about the world that I don't, and that has value, and like creating desire in that, so that like I want to be in relationship with you so that you can like hold this desirous thing so that I'll pay you or whatever it is. And I'm like, okay, this is a very weird way of going about doing business. Like, I'm not getting to know you. All I'm getting to know is this loud shrieking person. And why would I want to work with that? Like, that doesn't make any sense. So,
well, I also think what's interesting, like we got into this a little bit with our friend Beamer about certain people trying to sell certain ideas that they don't understand themselves. So are you just saying things, or do you understand? Do you embody? Do you like, because I feel like Farzad, you're probably a very good salesperson because you understand the thing that you are selling. Like it is of you. And when the people that don't really get it, like you can't talk to them. There's no conversation because they're like, I've got a line. I've got another thing that's canned, versus it's more improvisational if you can be in the idea and you're like, let me think about that from the point of the idea, which is why I think people like you, Farzad, are good at negotiating, because people are talking to you and you're like, yeah, I can talk about that. Like the idea, like it doesn't matter. Like I've got this thing. I know you want it. I know why you want it. I know how to get you to like, because I understand this thing fully. And I feel like people like what you're talking about, they don't understand it fully. I don't know if they know why they're doing it. But you're giving them the room. It's not as much holding their energy as it is.
Well, it's holding all the other crap they're bringing.
Well, just holding the space to let them dump the crap and not picking it up, or picking it up and being like, what is this? And they're like, oh, don't look at that. And you're like, well, you just said that. So like, what? Yeah.
Yeah.
Waste management. That's all we're doing.
Effectively. Or just,
So this is a good, like, you can't process other people's waste for them though.
No.
So yeah, like you come to a space like this and we're all dropping our waste for each other to be like, oh, that's interesting. But like, maybe there's something that you can learn about what I'm dropping, Farzad or Dave, and vice versa. But it's up to us to choose or to learn from it as individual. Like there's like a weird, like you're sharing, it's like the metaverse. You're putting stuff out for group consumption, but then at the end of the day, you need to work with it on your own.
Yeah, but I think the part that waste management, it just, we relate. So it's just very,
it's natural. Yeah.
we share the waste.
Yeah.
Now we can talk about it because we both have we've experienced it.
Similar waste. Yeah.
Well, it's a curiosity thing again. Like, what are we going to, like, I don't, you know, like you talking about like how you work with your intensities, like making, like, I haven't thought about it like that. I have, but, you know, in a very sort of personal language way. And, you know, and through experimentation without doing any sort of like reflection with other people. Like you know, Kristen and I would talk about it, but like our energies are extremely different. So like when I would talk about things that are maybe really intense, like she's like, I don't understand why you're doing any of that. So, but, you know, explaining it, trying to explain it to myself, all of these things. But you have like so when I listen to you talk about those things, I'm like, yeah, I've experienced a fair amount of that kind of material. And like when you were talking about the being tapped into a particular kind of energy, right? I think that this mentality is a good one to work with. Like I find I like hearing about that, like that model makes sense. And what I'm hearing in it is that there's a fount, it's like a fucking volcano, right? And that volcano can be negative and destructive and horrible, you know, but it is also an energy source. Like it is also something that if harnessed, if worked with, can afford a type of thing that is good for you and good for others. So like part of the work, I think, the energy work or the psychological work, psyche work, is figuring out how that energy works, understanding it for your own edification, so that you can, it's there, it's not going anywhere. Like you are sensitive to that thing existing, and you can have a whatever relationship to it. It can be a negative and horrible and dark relationship, or it can be something that maybe starts there, but can be converted like through alchemy into something that is something that you can hold. Like that's what you're here because you hold that one. Like, and there's an art to holding that. Like, and you're gonna fuck it up sometimes, and it blows up, and you know, whatever. But can you know? So, anyways, I've been thinking a lot about that because the energy that I'm tapped into is like smoldering and deep and fucking terrible and full of pain. Wow. Right? That's what it feels like. And like there are times that like it's completely overwhelming. And I'm just like, I don't want any of this. Like, why do I have to know about this? But I do. So like getting right with the presence of that kind of thing, it can change into like a different, like, I don't know, sillier or lighter, or, you know, it's practicing that kind of stuff. Anyways, I don't know if any.
Interesting how people characterize their own energy. Like,
yeah.
Where did we pick up this like personification of the energy? Like, it's interesting because it's sort of narrative. You're narrativizing the felt sense of something. And this is like, you know, we all have different histories and lineages. So I'm just thinking about translating across people, because we might deal with things very differently, but it could be a similar underlying pattern or something.
So this is what I'm pointing at. So that there.
And there's different, like, so like you might have, like, for example, someone with bipolar might have higher peaks and lower troughs kind of thing. You don't have bipolar, but your intensity might spike in areas. And this is where I don't understand it, but there's probably I understand some part of it because I have like some counterpart, the mirror of it.
Yeah.
It's just not dialed up like that. My dials
Sure.
turned down a bit.
These are all relative. Like everybody has peaks and valleys in their intensity and their like relationship to their energy.
Yeah.
So one of the things that has come up recently that I've been feeling into that I am operating from is this concept that like the energy that I have a sensitivity to is not my energy. Like it is energy that is out there that other people also have sensitivities to. Like it is shared amongst, and the collective unconscious is probably like Jung's version of this. There's other variations within religious traditions or whatever. And my individual relationship to that energy is I am conditioned and I have grown up to have a relationship to that energy that can be expressed in only a way that conditioning could express. So there is an individuality in that, but it is an individuality that is expressing a shared like energy. This is extremely relieving because if you don't have to hold the whole fucking thing, we can hold it together and then I can just do my part. So it is moving
like a filter of
it's channel. I mean, there's lots of like artists during the Renaissance and these kinds of things. They're just channeling an energy that exists. Like, and if you offload the idea that the energy is held in common amongst other people,
interesting though, because
you can do a lot more.
If you think about it, so it comes through you, it's not necessarily like in the sense of owning it, but it then becomes your energy. It's unique.
Ownership of the energy, I think responsibility for the energy.
Yeah, I said it's not about ownership.
It's about processing that thing that exists. Like it is something that it is standing like, so but say
what you spew out. So like there's something coming in, which is collective, and the thing that comes out is individual, right? That can be related to a bunch of people, like every people, because
anybody who has a sense of that same energy, which is not universal, but
well, there's some part of every person that everyone else could potentially like connect to, because we're all made from the same stuff and we're all channeling the same stuff, but certain people make more sense because the pattern is more obvious because of what your history of like
I think this is where great art, great feats, whatever, these kinds of things, this is what those people are tapped into to some degree. The idea that there is some nascent energy that we share, and they can express it in a way that is close to the understanding of that energy.
What's the process of transformation then for individually processing as like an entity, right? What is happening like to the nature of the energy? I'm just curious.
It's being transmogrified.
Transmuted. How
it's
like
alchemical in a sense, like that's the patterning.
It's like you're putting your own stamp on it in a way. It's like
you're processing
flavor. Yeah.
And processing,
which changes
it sure
formats it. Yeah, I'm just trying to get like
processes it.
But how? Like,
I mean, I think that depends on the process. So, like, are you asking what's the fundamental sense of change within the? I mean, it's so low in the stack. If we're going to talk about that, that's like.
What's interesting to me.
Sure. This is what the cognitive science and like overlap with theology is doing.
This is my same question with the Web3 relational connective tissue stuff is how do we relate to other things? Like what happens? Like what is happening when we process information and it is of like kind? Or how do we reach, like what is the nature? Because it's all energy basically. So there's a pattern here for me.
Sure. I mean, there's the procedural stuff. There's there's a whole stack here.
If you can it's not procedural as much as it is of understanding the nature of the changes that are happening or required to happen in order for these things to occur.
Sure. In the individual, in the collective, like where
It's both.
yes. So yeah, getting our heads wrapped around language on this. I don't know.
Yeah, because like you take energy in basically from collective. You're like filtering it through your own egoic entity.
Sure.
But it only like, and then you spit it back out, but it's in relation to other people again.
Well, they're gonna reflect whether or not the processing of that energy is something like that resonates with the whole.
Yes. It's interesting though, like
Sorry, I take that for granted.
why would you take that for granted?
I have no idea, because that's how I felt it works. So
I mean, it's a weird thing to take for granted though. It's not like people talk about this.
it's so obvious to me that this is how the machine works. Well, maybe I haven't put words to it, but I act in this way. So the idea that like, so good design or branding or like things that resonate with people, there is a language that exists that we hold together.
I mean, even more
that you can have like a sensitivity to, and then speak it back through your perspective.
Good morning.
And the more that you become attuned to that knowledge, like design, for instance, design as a language, there are certain types of things that are going to work, certain types of like held understanding. Like we know that when we press a button, something happens. Like you can become attuned to that. That's also available in the cultural sphere. That's available in the academic sphere. That's available in the spiritual sphere. But some of this understanding is more common than not. And so part of the work, if you have an understanding that might be good for other people, is to figure out a way to language it into the world so that more people can understand it. Like this is part of what design and like art can do.
This is what all interaction is though. Socializing anything is that, which is why it's just a fundamental process that keeps happening. And there's different, so you can package it differently. The way that it's processed, you can package it into designs, you can package it into academic endeavors,
linguistics,
you can package it into
art, novels,
photograph, or it's interesting. I mean, it's less like waste management, it's like recycling. You're just taking stuff that's out there and like picking it up, processing it, and reusing it as something else, and be like, how about this?
So this model is coming into the zeitgeist because we have to do this now. We can't just keep making shit forever, new shit.
Well, it's never new, but what we've been doing, like literally, is taking things, extracting things from the earth.
So the concept of new, right?
Yeah.
Like
this to make something new.
Yeah.
And then there's a bunch of waste that you throw away that is not being reused.
Well, it's a false premise.
Yeah.
It's the idea of a pristine, untouched, out of context item that has never been seen before. That's fine, but like we're at the end of that rope.
Yep.
Anyways, what were you saying, Farzad?
No, just thinking that was what needs to happen is actually looking at the waste that is being created and see what can be created with it.
Yes.
Instead of just but so, that's waste management, isn't it? Recycling is part of waste management, or is not? I feel like it's goes under it, right? It goes under it.
The circular economy is what people are talking about in this sense. Like that guy, the BMW guy, he's very interested in this stuff because he's made large scale objects and industrial design and sustainability and all of these kinds of things are becoming of vital importance to all manufacturing. Part of, I think, luxury will be if you can see where all of your goods were made. Like if you are providing something that like throughout the entire life cycle is presenting itself transparently as being good in general for the environment, that is a luxury good. That's how luxury is switching now. So it's the waste is part of the idea, like, and how it is being handled is art. Like there's a craft in that. So like some of the people that we're talking to now have this sensibility. They're like, this is coming up in markets too. So like the idea of that the waste is valuable in some way because
waste as useless is the fallacy, and new as in, I don't know what the word is here. Like it's some like, I don't know, not attached to anything else, not in relationship to anything else. Like it can to come from somewhere. And
so you can put a price on that. Like, so that's happening. Carbon markets are starting to appear because, right? Like, and you're able to tie this, the crypto thing allows you to, for every purchase that is made, like tie into a product that like has an offset that is like sort of transparently shown to be effective. So like now, like if you have like a subscription model or whatever, some percentage of that thing is going to need to go towards carbon taxing to offset the energy. All of this stuff is becoming available now. So that level of consciousness, anyways, these things, that I think maybe is where you're feeling the waste management, that cycling, that like, you know, we are going to be taking things that already exist and remixing them into something that like is reusable and maintainable. Like that is a manufacturing process that is going to become necessary, because the likelihood that we are going to massively produce new shit at the speed that we're doing, it's not possible to maintain. It will collapse. Like, because when people start having consciousness about the amount of garbage that we make for no fucking reason, it will become counter societal to create garbage. Instead, if you're using garbage to create something beautiful, that there's an artistry in that. So there, I think brands will move in this direction, and mentality is moving in this direction. Anyways, that's an energy that I'm sort of feeling into. I just keep seeing pop up or whatever, and it seems to be a positive one.
Yeah. Side note, completely unrelated.
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit. I sat on the couch and I'm like, you know, feather came out. And I'm like, feather, huh? Why never? Then I'm like Googling where the feather actually comes from. And I'm seeing that and I'm reading more into it. And I'm like, what the fuck do I have in my living room now?
Yep.
What is this? It's such a nightmare, because once you go vegetarian, you become very sensitive to like, that's an animal, you know? And I'm like, okay, pillow, all right, my bed, oh my God, my clothes. And then all of these things, and it becomes just such a weird thing that, you know, fuck branding and marketing. The way of the process of making things actually should be the branding and marketing of things.
Yep.
I'm like, how packaged, everything is just packaged too good, which is not good.
Nope.
So what was it? The waste part.
Yeah, it's overwhelming.
Part of the energy. It's interesting. Like in the beginning, you're drinking coffee and taking all of this external thing to get some energy, and then you start running, and then your energy levels just automatically goes up.
Yeah.
And then, all right, you go. In the beginning, you feel a bit tired after a run. Then you become more energetic during the day, and you don't actually need a bunch of boosts during the day. It holds for a very long time. But then you start noticing, especially if you're kind of becoming mentally a little bit weak, you start noticing when your energy suddenly goes to, it can be an anger, a conversation, being a place you don't want to be in. And that becomes so noticeable, just how easily energy can be taken away from you.
Yeah.
Managing that right is probably how you can make most out of things.
I think that like, so the way I see that is like coming out of alignment, like sort of overwhelms or like overexertion, these kinds of things where you're trying things, and like the consistent especially the age that we're living in, everything is changing rapidly and is uncertain, right? And so we have a felt sense of that as people, and individually, you know, we've got whatever we've got. So part of it is that, like, if you're mostly in a place where you're able to capture or like catch these things happening, notice them, work with them, and give yourself a break, that's the best you can kind of do in the place that we're at. So like, because it's also like a process of growing rapidly, right? Like your perspective that you just described about how the supply chain works versus how we were talking even 2 months ago, that is wildly different. You may have had a sensitivity to it, but you've given voice to it now. Like, look at all of the things and where they all come from. And part of it is that you're playing with manufacturing. So you're like getting a hands-on experience with it, right? Yeah. But that's like over the course of a couple months, you have radically changed the way that you see the world. So like, there's going to be like ripples that affect your entire like instantiation of the world, like, or how you relate to it, because you have this new understanding that has to be managed and processed. And, you know, if you're mostly not falling apart, that's fine. Good. Like, nice. Like that's, you know, this. And then part of what I've started to learn is that it's just going to be like this for a while. Like, you're going to get bounced around and these things are going to bubble up. And that's the baseline. Okay. It's fine. It makes it easier to work with all of it. Anyway.
It's so nice. After Viral, I'm like, what a great experience. I want to do more of these kind of things and then just take a break from all of this enterprise bullshit.
Yeah.
Power management, a bit with ease. And then we pick solutions that are not productivity. We already have that health show with our own stuff. Social things that make you healthier. So Vital was the first one, and now is hopefully we're gonna work on this product called Opal. Opal is screen time saver. Screen saver. Huh. Anyway, so it's not that intelligent currently. It won't detect your current patterns of how often you check certain things or how actually you feel when you are browsing on the social media for a while. Blah, blah. You would be able to say, all right, I don't want to, my purpose of using this is just, I don't want to use these apps as often as I'm currently doing it. And it puts a limit on it. It's a VPN kind of it just really cuts power. Instead of with Apple, you get these reminders. You're like, well, you know, and then you hit ignore immediately and you go, I can just, I need 5 more minutes. This one, the timely notifications, the copy of things, and it made everything just so smooth. And the screen, I feel like with all of this anxiety, depression, all of these things that are currently being educated on, social media anxiety gonna become a term, and then there are gonna be probably books about it. Spending too much time on TikTok, you probably are gonna get
Supposedly, I didn't look into it, but people are getting like tics from TikTok, like certain affectations. I didn't read into it, but like, yeah, it's affecting people's psyche and then their expression in the world.
Yeah,
it would probably take you a lot to actually burn out. Now I feel like that time frame is much shorter because of the intensity of the social media.
Yeah.
We figured out how to mainline it.
Yeah.
Because it's like sugar, the same thing. Like so this is a thing that like the structure that is capitalism does really well. It is very good at taking something that we desire and refining it into like the best possible, delicious, addictive thing, right? Yeah, I don't know. So yeah, there are people talking about it. I've been trying to follow a lot of this stuff because how do we make stuff that's not like that? I think you're playing with it now. Like you're making like a awareness apps, health apps, like, patterns and stuff like this. And I think that, so even the people we're working with in France, Objet, they're doing a version of this kind of thing for like intentional buying,
Purchasing.
purchasing, like,
Nice. E-commerce?
They're figuring out where they're going to be in the stack. Right now it's like
They do have like a, what do you call it? Not a widget. What's the thing?
a browser extension that sort of captures your purchase behavior through the browser.
They have that so that it's harder like to stop you from buying new things, like kind of like a pause. Think about it. Like, are you sure you want to do this?
It's an object VPN. It's a similar thing to you're doing with the attentional like limiter.
Yeah, because none of the stuff that we are currently doing on internet is actually intentional. It's just learned habits, and then it wasn't we weren't lectured on it. It kind of were programmed into us. But yeah, interesting. So I've been keep pitching this idea to the founder. I'm like, this is probably a path to experiment with. You need to first notice the patterns, then you need to visualize what those actually mean. And then once you do it, you need to replace them with better behaviors and probably connecting it with other solutions. You could turn it into its own app store of well-being, promoting better solutions to replace bad solutions, which is basically most of the social media, if not all of it. But during the beginning of this call with all of the NFT conversations, I'm slowly understanding what the metaverse of the new Facebook is going to be about. Holy shit.
Yeah.
We are checking completely out of this world. I feel like we haven't even explored it fully, but we're like, all right, let's just create this digital thing and then live in there.
This is the thing. We can create the counter to that bullshit. Like, I don't agree with that worldview. So I'm going to make a worldview that is connective to reality, like to our interpersonal reality. Like it can enhance, it can be something that coexists. Like you have a digital thing that's in service of you living a better life here. Like it's not transcending into a digital like heaven, because that doesn't fucking exist. It's bullshit. Yeah.
Imagine if all of these NFTs and art collections and what other, whatever very much not needed things come into the metaverse and like, here, check, this is my house stuff. I'll put on these glasses though. Check them artwork on the wall. Don't do that.
I mean, we met somebody last night that is doing that exact thing.
You can drop NFTs in the public space though, so that other people can enjoy them.
That's cool.
And like, and graffiti artists too. So like on this wall, you can go back in time to see like prior pieces of work, which that is nice, like a public thing. But yeah, if you are privatizing it and if it's just another way of showcasing your consumptive habits, like it's stupid. Who gives a shit? You're literally just recreating this world that we can all see right now in the metaverse. It's just like another way of seeing it, which is boring.
Making it perfect.
Yeah, which doesn't exist.
Perfect. Your reality is gonna just be shattered. And you won't be in it because you are now seeking perfection. Look at this art. I want this. You take it off. You're like, it's not there. This is what a boring wall. And then you just want to stay in there. I wonder what Apple thing gonna be with the glasses, because it has to be see-through, meaning like you are living in the reality. It's just been advanced with technology, so you can see through things, perhaps not wall, but I mean like what it's made of, or what is this cost, or where can I find this? So how do I go there? Not like look at all of this imaginary stuff that lives on internet that are not real, can't touch it, but there is the value of it is much higher than anything that you've touched in your whole life. And go explain that to whatever part of your brain that's trying to make sense of it.
Yeah, it is abstracted tangibility is the way I think about this. Like, so in the case that like entry cards as NFTs, right? To get into the Board Yachts Club or whatever, FWB. Like these are early examples that if you hold one of these abstract concepts that is imprinted onto a blockchain that we have abstracted, that we all agree to, that is held in electric energy that we've all agreed to host, then it affords you the ability to get into a place that we all agree that you can't get into unless you have one of these abstracted things. So yeah, so that is tangibilizing these abstract concepts because they afford movement in the real world by possession of the shared idea of them, right? So now when you own a house, it can be represented or, you know, like this is where that stuff is going. But yeah.
Oh, neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Digital neighborhood?
Yeah. Football neighborhoods. Because in each country you have this, you know, fancy side, and then you have this underground downtown. Building a digital map of that, and we're like, you know, there is the board apes.
Yeah.
Block and then fuck.
This is the metaverse building itself in, right? Like that's what it feels like. It's weird.
We were out partying the other night and talking about this kind of stuff. And so we're in like a funny state of mind and we're socializing, and someone's like, so is everybody just going to be a hot blonde white chick in the metaverse? Like that's everybody's going to choose to be that, like walking around with like a perfect body. It was really funny. And we were like, yeah.
Facebook is building it.
Yeah. And you don't know who that person is. I mean, it's the same thing as like the early internet stuff where people were getting duped online, like come meet up. And it was like some like 60-year-old man. And they said that they were like a 19-year-old dude. And you're like, what? Yeah. Now they'll have a whole avatar and they can create their own like fake life, basically. It'll be interesting. That's the degen version though.
Yeah.
I don't know. The way we build this stuff, like as builders, like indicates what's going to show up. Like this, I take like pretty seriously. It's become one of the things that like all of the shit cases are like, you can see them coming. It's harder to see the stuff that's going to come from the like patterns that you think are, I don't know, healthy for people. Right. But like having an eye towards like building these things in some sort of wise way is kind of the aspiration that I have. Like when we put one of these things in the world, it can be thoughtful. It can be in its construction, hopefully educational or transcendent or better for people. Like even if it's a goofy little toy. So I don't know.
I mean, with NFTs, it should come out of this freaking rich culture and go into the ones that are undervalued, or it needs to empower those that are very far away from it. So it needs to actually be educating. It needs to be taught to the ones that are less fortunate, because this actually is, well, that aside, you know, the philosophical part of it. What part of a collection thing that I never had in my life, like why I never hooked up into that thing, like collecting things?
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't have
what's the feeling like a cards as a kid, like
he got
I have baseball, basket.
Yeah. So
but I feel like you did it because it was a business opportunity.
I try everything because I like to understand them. So I want to know what it feels like to be like, and the best way to do this is to hang out with people who play with them. Like I like to join a scene, and then it's like anthropology. So when I was a kid, I felt the rush of like getting a rare one.
Yeah.
Like, because if you agree to the premise of the game, which is there are only so many of these, and then you have X number of people who agree there are only so many of these, then like understanding like the set of them. So say there's like, 10,000 of something, which is a number that pops up a lot, right? Like there's a bunch of characteristics. Some of them are funny in certain ways. There's a language to the whole thing. And if you can learn the language and like one part of it has like an interesting value that sparks joy in you, then you can have that thing. And then you can show it to other people and they also recognize that it has that thing, right? So it is a shared delusion that is very fun. It's a game, right? And you can also take that into like gameplay so that when I have this one and you have this one, like when we make them bang together, there's something that happens, right? So now we're playing a game together and we all agree on this energy. And then I write a story about when those two things come together. And that story is now held in common. You get to build a universe with people. And it can turn into greed though, like where you must have it because it is so delightful. But there's a healthy and unhealthy way to go about these things. I don't know. That's my felt sense of these kinds of worlds.
I wonder if that's gonna hit NFTs.
Oh, it's fully completely. I mean,
no, as in like somebody comes, holds one, board ape, whatever.
Yeah.
And the other person has another one.
Yeah.
And then they're able to come in, merge it, increase the value, and then something happens because it's all digitally. So you can just like whatever. Now this person have two hats on top of each other.
That's what is like in the metaverse or Web3 composability.
Yeah.
That's what they call it.
So say you have another project.
Reactions gonna come then. Reactions.
People
because I feel like money and the stuff gonna be aside, and then it needs to have a social feedback. So
doesn't exist yet. That's what we are up at, that level of the sociality. So like there are a few projects like reactions.wtf is one of them. I think and they're trying to figure out like a financialized method for this kind of thing. It needs to be pegged to some other kind of value. Like it can't be money, like, because you can just buy reactions then. What's the fucking point? So what are social markets that have dynamics that are not necessarily financialized?
Is there any charity work in this delusion? All right, that is.
A lot of people give money to charity in like the beginning when they're starting to make money, but I don't know if people have like recurring revenue models for putting money back into charity. And I don't know that I've heard of any, because it's so technologically like advanced right now. So you're not seeing a lot of like nonprofits or governments really getting into this, but we're starting to see it.
Yeah, because I feel like if all of the people that are in this game are rich and all they care about is the status and access to blah, 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 and they need feel good. Feel good comes from the charity. If one of these organizations do some kind of here's 10,000 or whatever, dead whales or whatever, you can buy them and then you could have them in a collection. You'll be certified as a good person.
Yeah.
And they get what they need. It puts to some better use.
So this is not happening as much as it will.
Yeah.
So here's the pathway there. We just talked about the carbon stuff. The carbon stuff is happening pretty frequently. When you write a smart contract, you can put whatever conditions in that contract you wish, and they will be actuated anytime money changes hand. So say you have a Bored Ape, and in that Bored Ape, it says 12% of all the money on every transaction goes back in royalties to the initial artist, right? Every time it changes hands, 12%. Also, you can code in there, I want 10% of this money to go to X charity's wallet. You can program all of it. So the money can be programmed.
Every time it turns hands, it changes hands.
You could do that.
The creator profits.
Yes.
You can program it like that. They're not all programmed like that, but
you can.
I don't know how Bored Apes is.
Yeah, like it depends on the project. I don't know about the Bored Apes or whatever. But
yes, you can do that.
Decentralizing is that, by the way.
Say what?
How decentralizing is that, by the way?
What do you mean?
It doesn't make sense for it to be one being always though. I mean, if it can be programmed that one person can.
Well, the person who created it.
Yeah.
So Bored Apes makes less sense because it's like, I feel like a digitized like art form.
Why does that make less sense?
I feel like everything in the NFT space like that. But can locations be? Can they be? Can you donate to a location and anybody living in that location get a split of whatever that was donated, like a school?
Sure.
So like this is what's being encoded. Like we're way, so people are putting, the first places that this happened was money. Like how do you create the infrastructure to move money from banks and fiat into this digital environment where they can move through the smart contracts? We're purely an infrastructure right now. Like the infrastructure so that like parts of the real world, like you're feeling into, become visible to the money that can move digitally, right? So once that stuff happens, right now we have lawyers doing this. We have laws doing this. We are encoding it now. When you code a contract, you put it out there, you can't change it. Like we agree to operate on this contract, and whenever the contract is interoperable, it produces results that have been encoded that we agree to encode, right? So that's the general promise of this thing. And you don't need armies of lawyers and a lot of people holding this thing together as much. You still need people involved in the process, but less of them.
So if you're saying we are building a world digitally and there are no governments, there are no rules, they are being built by people that can be traced back, which are going to be the new governments, which is basically everybody, or just the ones, because some people are participating, the other type of people that are creating it. So those creators are actually the lawmakers, or
so this can work in a bunch of different ways. So imagine that like playing with this stuff is like building your own nation. Like only gigantic groups of people and armies could build nations before, but now small groups of people, because of the way the technology works, can create nation-like entities. They're not competitive with nations in the same way, but they have
like optional too. That's like they're
you can move between them, like, but there are requirements for how to participate in the nation. You have taxes, you have laws, like you have social norms, you have like maybe you're a charitable nation, maybe you're a warlike nation, maybe you are a creative nation, maybe you are all of those things, because that's normally what is composed of a nation.
Yeah. Remember when people were wearing this, I don't know if it was a US thing or only a Scandinavian thing or Europe thing, the rose, the pink ribbon for the breast cancer?
Yeah. It was over here.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
that NFT.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a charity. I don't know, there are a bunch of them.
Charity as a concept, like I think is a byproduct of like corporate structures in particular, because the corporate structures do not care about public good in the same way. And so, but we need to care about public good. So we offset that into care organizations, and then the money goes into the charities, but it's a gift rather than, I think that what's happening now is, if there is something that needs to be done in the world, we need to take care of it, the environment in some way, or we need to take care of each other in some way. We now have tooling that allows us to build these organizations so that they can on-ramp funding, and they can be, it can be a status play to work for these things like you can build them so that they are sustainable and they don't require like charitable donations necessarily. Like those things can be something that you can come offer your effort and your money, and you can actuate those things in ways that like were much harder in the like nonprofit sector and these kinds of things. Like, so I think that there is the possibility that there's an organizational structure here that is not just solely nonprofit or what. There's some new thing there, and it can be built on top of this ecosystem. Anyhow, that's vague, but
yeah, I feel like this charity organization should actually be NFT creators in OpenSea or something, for just to do some, because I bet like people would just buy them to have them in their collection, where they go, that's my pink ribbon for whatever charity.
well, again, it's in your wallet. And
Yeah,
so
exactly.
like the things that you are supporting with your effort, so you can buy them, but you can also go participate in these things. And the participation, like where you have like gone and affected some amount of change through the effort of your work, can then be rewarded in like NFTs or something like it. And those are earned. So that's a status symbol that you can't just buy.
Can people with like each person has a wallet, can they come together and have a joint wallet?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can create groups, so companies. So
you can have one wallet and then multiple people who sign on the wallet for any decision to be made on how to spend. And you can have that be 2 of 3, 3 of 10, unanimous. Yeah.
I was just thinking, if that's the case, then you would be able to actually in the future trace back to the source of anything that is you touch, you consume, you wear, whatever, where it exactly come from and out of the hands that it went through.
Yep.
And it was validated.
Yep.
It's a real life verification badge.
Yep. So if you're doing things in the open, that changes the way that you do things. Like, and not everything needs to be on chain. Not everything needs to be written down, because
that eliminates the whole error, because then you could actually pinpoint that was that person in the process made an error or cheated or whatever. It can easily be pinpointed.
Yeah, this is underpinning some of the trust system, right? Because if there is a ledger of behavior, and like you want to be an actor, I mean, there's ways around this and ways to do it private and not, and we're figuring all that stuff out. But that is one of the upsides. Yeah, like if there is a lineage that you can look through on how things, this is back to the supply chain, right? Like if it's all marked up and you can see where it's all coming from, like you can't not know where your shit came from. And so now that is visible, then there is a change in behavior, new social norms that are being developed around that way of thinking. Like us doing this, like recording our thinking, and that's just how good actors in a system are going to have to work.
Yeah. With wallets being transparently visible, like you can see what's in them.
Yeah.
On OpenSea, religion gonna come into this.
Oh, it's there.
Religion gonna come into this. I believe this. I'm just collecting this for that belief.
Yeah, like I have a Bored Ape, and everybody believes that I have one.
Yeah. I would love to do something with that then.
That's what the cultural projects are.
Huh?
Yeah. This is one of the reasons that I've been researching philosophy and theology and understanding how that stuff works, because in the process of developing healthy, like intentional products, like understanding like what churches and like societies and wisdom traditions did for these kinds of things, we're just digitizing that stuff. Like it is, and we can consciously work with it to produce results that are good for people.
Yeah, but I'm thinking all of these things that are being in the art space, like you have this shoe or whatever, the Vine guy created all of these accessories. Yeah. Beliefs gonna be minted.
Well, those things are like symbolic of your belief in the system then. And then if you have other on-chain behavior that shows that you're participating in a certain way, then you can see people's belief structures basically encoded on chain.
Yeah.
Like maybe you're a member of a loot universe, so you have a loot bag, but you also have some other NFT that signifies that you're a member of a guild that is part of the divine guild or something. But the practices and the rituals that those people partake in is mostly private unless you want to join, or you're experimenting. Like you're asking, is there some way, and this is like Discords do this, like you can join and there's a few channels for you to explore, but unless you own some amount of the ERC20 tokens or an NFT, then you don't get the full, like you have to join in order to see what's actually happening. They're like,
but I'm thinking if wallets are becoming somebody's Instagram, they would want to show their personality in it. So they would want to see you. Now it's just being filled with art and money, but then it needs to have some things that can showcase your personality.
Yep.
So there's a, I'm kind, there is some charity stuff here, whatever, or I consider myself with this NFT communities of all of these things that we used to in the beginning join on Facebook.
We're working on a camera protocol so that photographs are part of this too.
Yep.
So like Instagram, but it's decentralized. It's not owned by it's owned by the people, basically.
Yep.
It's your photo, you own it.
Sorry, what?
I didn't hear you.
No, just a collection of personality types would be interesting. Just very, very simple.
Yeah, I mean, you could,
whatever.
You could even do things like, I mean, it's on the nose, but like different personality tests. You own an NFT card that says I am an INFJ or whatever, like the things that people, because some people really care about that. Like it helps them understand people. So they wear a badge and they're like, look, I'm that. I mean, it's like
that one's every single one of these fucking things is going to show up. Like,
yeah.
You know, like, because that one is easy to design. You just put it into a thing, you take a test, and then you have to mint an NFT at the end. So you have to spend some amount of money and then to have it in your wallet. And it can, whatever. IQ tests, all kinds of dumb shit.
My IQ on chain.
Yep.
Whatever.
But that it is, right? Like if the wallet is actually your Facebook profile page of the future, you want all of these, like, I'm listening to this music. I'm this personality type.
Yeah, those are the harder they are to get, the more valuable they'll become. So like in the case of like a diploma or something like this, if educational entities move towards this direction, right? And they have a signed thing, and like it is hard to get one of those things, right? Like, yeah. There's also so that's the existing model. There's the thing that I find more interesting is that you are encouraging reputation and participation primarily within these ecosystems. And if there are systems to, like, this is what a company or an organization or a DAO becomes. There is a game that we all agree to, that by playing the game in certain ways, by building something, by thinking about something, by writing something, by doing communications, organizing or whatever, you are receiving some representation that is agreed upon by a group that has a validity. And that reputational token is worth now something in the broader sphere. So like joining particular groups and like participating in those groups is a signal, right, to other people, like, so we're democratizing that to some degree. So now it's a question of how do you design these groups in such a way that by working within them, you are bettering yourself to move through the world. This is kind of an educational, vocational guild kind of thing, right? Those are coming back, I think. Like a design guild. We should be participating and teaching in a design guild. You and me. We have to do this at some point. We have all of this knowledge that is stored up.
You have to do it.
I think it's we're gonna.
He's there. He's ready to join the religion.
Anyhow.
We should probably go because
Yeah, we gotta go launch an app.
Yeah, I know they've been tinkering on it.
Yeah.
So remember Mir, we're in a race to get a
token
so that we can publish under for the Web3 camera protocol. Is called internet camera. So you basically, it's like a popularity contest a bit. You get votes, and then if you win, and we think we're going to win this week because we got like some votes last week, so we're in the top 10 right now, and if we stay in the top 10 through this round of voting,
I hate all this.
we get a URL. So we're mir.internetcamera.xyz or internetcamera.mir, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then we can publish under that name, and we in the future, I think we'll be part of like a bigger community. I don't know if there's any community perks right now, but we thought we'd try it out just to see what would happen. And I don't know, it's working, I guess.
How many rounds is it left? This is the final round?
It's
We
really
don't-
not clear.
We don't know how it really works. There's different like voting structures that you can see. I'll send you a link. At the top, it says cumulative right now. So
Yeah.
we didn't know what that meant, but like last week we were like trying to get as many votes as we can. And like one of the partners, Sharuz, he has connections with people that have also gone through the process. So those people have more votes. So they're giving us like all of their votes. So we got to, I don't know, we might've been like 15th, I guess, overall last week,
Yeah.
but all of the votes we got, they were cumulative. So it rolled over to this week, and we're like, okay, I guess that's how that works. And we didn't know until we went through it. Because in the past, it was just 1 week, like you have to go try fresh every week. But I think there's so many people applying now because it's just open that they're helping more people get in, basically, is the idea. But I don't know. It's silly. I don't like the dynamic. It's kind of ridiculous.
Anybody can become gatekeepers now. Holy shit.
Yeah, that for sure.
You just have to give them you have to build a game that selects for the kind of people you want in your community. And some amount of people who value that kind of gameplay will show up and play your game.
Yep.
And then they'll help you figure out what the game should be next, because they care about getting in. So then you can build it together, and you have people who wanted to be in there. So
That's why
they're good to partner with.
we don't have a gate basically right now.
No
Just
gate.
the gate is, can you collaborate and like play?
That's
like
a gate.
But
At
it's
like a
not
high
like-
level of play currently.
with the doodling together.
Well, that's our first expression of the,
Yep.
like, all you need to do is be able to put an image on the screen and then draw an image on the screen and then invite some friends. Like, okay, that's the gate for our game. And for people who like to do this kind of thing, what kind of other games can we make with them? For people who like to collaborate to make stuff together, it's like selecting for these kinds of people. So, and some of those people will want to collaborate and make stuff together because they showed up for the game to do that. That's my hope. Who knows what'll actually happen? I have no idea.
This feels refreshing though.
Right?
Yeah.
This is why it's fun to make this stuff right now, because if it works, great. If it doesn't, you learn more about the world. It's nice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
New world. All right.
Yep.
Well,
Cool, man.
we'll figure out once we get these first apps off the ground, we can figure out something fun. We'll build it with you.
Yeah. Would love to.
I think we're getting there.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get one out today even. Who knows?
We always get really close and then something happens and then it's going to be a little longer. It's going to be a little longer. You know how it goes.
Yeah. Cool.
Not putting too much weight on it is usually the way to go, but then you can't control it. So, you know.
Yep.
When it wants to go out the door, it'll get out the door.
We're getting close.
Yeah. Cool. All right,
All
man.
right.
Next week. See ya.
See it.
Bye.
Bye.